Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Sage Business Cloud Payroll Professional webinar, where we will discuss the backup and restore process for the product. My name is Francois Brandt, and I'll be leading the presentation for you today. On today's agenda, we will discuss some terminology involved in the backup and restore process, how to create a backup, how to retrieve and restore backup, and then how to do some troubleshooting. Let's look at terminology. Now, what does it mean to create a backup? Backup is the process of making a copy of the information to be used in the event that the original copy is lost or damaged. Making backups of files on backup media, which could be secondary media, including hard drives or even cloud storage, is an important part of the protecting of data process and ensuring the integrity of the files. Backups has helped to ensure that regardless of your current security strategy at your business, you have secure and clean data to get your payroll up and running in the case of data loss, a hack attack, or even natural disaster. Now, the benefit of being a payroll professional client is that your data and backups are safe and secure, and the recovery processes are in place if something should happen. Now, what does it mean to restore the data backups? Now, data restore is the process where you copy the data from a secondary storage, which could be the backup location, local or in the cloud, and restoring it to the original location or even to a new location, where we could maybe call it a copy system. A restore is performed to return data that was being lost or stolen or damaged to its original condition, or to move data to a new location to be able to view the program snapshot of when the backup was made. And we call it a snapshot because at that point in time when the backup was made, everything, all the calculations were doing something, the information and data was saying something. As soon as you access a backup, you will be able to change some data again if you want to. But if you, at that point when the backup was made and the restore is made, the information was exactly the same. Now, we always say that data must always be restored in a compatible program version to access the information. Now, when you retrieve the information and restore the data from Payroll Professional, the system will always know what version your data is on, and it will install it in the correct version the backup was made on. So there's no worries for you as a Payroll Professional client to go and look for the correct system to restore your data. It will always know what the right version should be. Let's review the process of how to create a backup. Now, there are a few different backup options when you access the system. So from your main menu from any company, if you click on Utilities, click on Backup, you will see there are three options available. There's a data for this company, data for all your companies, and data for selected companies. If you previously accessed the system from a desktop application, like Sage Classic or Sage Premier, you would have had a few different options, which would have included a full system backup option. This is not necessary, as the backup of the data which is made and saved to the archive, when it is recovered, it will always be opened as a system already because it knows the version. So you will not have any worries about creating full system backups. And this is now before you're going to do an update, because your updates are actually handled by the Sage technical team from our side, so you will never have to worry about making backups or doing installations. This will be done for you, and all the upgrades are already done for you to put you on the right and the best version. Now let's quickly look at the different backup options that we've just mentioned. Data for this company is where you create the backup for the current company that you are accessing. Data for all companies mean that you're going to do a backup of all the companies within your payroll app system directory, including all the system-wide files. So this is basically all the data excluding the program. And then data for selected companies will make backups of multiple companies that you can select to which you have access. Now, how long does the archive retain the backups? Well, when we're going to have a look at the different type of backups, you will see that the backups that you made is the ad hoc backups, as we would call it. These are backups you can make at any time of the day or any time of the month. Now, these backups are only retained for 1 month. This will also include any backup that you will make before updating a batch or uploading a flexi. So these are the ad hoc ones are which we will call the user-defined ones. The period end backups, these will be the ones before you do a start of period to a new month or week or bi-week. These are called the period end backups. They are retained for 2 years. So you will have access to restore them for 2 years. The tax year end backups, which will be the final backups for the tax year, and these are created when you start a new tax year, when you roll into a new tax year in a new month, these backups will be retained for 10 years. And as for security purposes, all the user data is also backed up on a daily basis on the cloud service. These backups are stored for up to 2 weeks, and these backups will unfortunately not be able, you will not be able to access them. They're only used for if there's server failure or if there's some issue that we need to recover data from, but at least we know that we can go back for 2 weeks each day to retrieve some information there if necessary. Now, when you do a start a new period to a new month or a new week, the system will automatically create a backup. You will not be able to continue your start period if the system does not make the backup. The system's going to prompt you and ask you if you want it to continue. If you say yes, it will make the backup. And if you say no, your company will stay in the same pay period. Now, in a case where you, for example, need to restore a backup to a live system for a previous period, and you have to redo a start of period, we will create a new backup before you do your start of period. So it is a possibility that if you've followed this process, that you might have 2 period end backups for the specific month or week available on your archive. We assume that the latest one would be the last one that you would be able to use. You can't discard them, but at least you will know that there is backups made and that your data is safe there. When you start a new tax year, the system will also automatically create the year-end backup. And it's the final backup of your tax year, and that's the one that's going to be retained for 10 years. During the process with your start of period to the new tax year, the data will also be copied to the tax year end management instance. In other words, it will create a system that you will be able to access, which will be used for you to reconcile and run your tax certificates. And if you would like to access that system, you will just click on your action button. So that's the 3 dots next to your launch button. And then there's a sub-menu that says tax year end management. If you click on that button, a menu option will slide from the right-hand side, which will allow you then to select this applicable tax year. So each year, for each year you've got your calendar year, you can select it that systems are available, and within each year there will be a month end, which will then be your tax year end period. For example, in South Africa, we know that the tax year is in end of February, so you will notice that February will be, for example, in your 2020 folder available there. Now, what's interesting is that the system also does backups before imports. So before you do an import on a batch or a flexi import, the system's going to prompt you to make a backup, which is actually optional, but so you can decide not to do it, but it's really advisable for you to do it. These backups will allow the user the option to restore a backup in case the import was unsuccessful. Now, in this day and age, we know that anything can happen. For example, load shedding while you're busy processing. If you're not on a UPS or anything, your power might go down. And in this case, if you're in the middle of the process, it could cause that the batch or the flexi have not updated in full. Now, with this option, with this backup, you can just basically go and restore that backup before you did the import, and you'll be back at a point in time before doing the import, and you'll be able to redo the process again. When the backup is made or you're prompted to make the backup, just ensure that no other users are in the company or the backup process will fail. Now let's look at the process of retrieving and restoring backups. Now, how do you retrieve a backup? Now, your subscription page is where you will launch your system from, and before you want to launch your system, you were able to retrieve it. So what we do is on the Actions button, the 3 dots, you just click on that, which will bring up the menu options where you can click on Retrieve the Backup on step 2. On step 3, you'll be able to select the specific company you want to retrieve the backup for. Now take note, this list of companies and backups are retrieved from the archive, and unfortunately, if you've got a lot of companies, it will take a while for us to generate the list of companies. So please be patient for a few moments while the system just gets the information ready for you. It's not stuck if you think about it. If you see that, the system is retrieving the information, and as soon as it's available, you'll be able to select your company. After you've selected your company, as you can see on point 4, you'll see the archive timeline, which will actually indicate the date when the backup was made, the name of the backup, because you were also able to name some of the backups, for example, the ad hoc ones, and then the button to retrieve them. If you click on the Retrieve button, it will take you back to your subscription page. What will happen is you'll notice that there's a new button next to your Launch button, and it will refer to Company with the company number Backup. When you click on that button, a new menu options will slide below it. Now, the first option you can see there is to launch the backup. The next one is return the backup to the archive and discard all changes made. The third one is replace old backup in the archive and apply all changes made, and then replace company with the company number in my live data with the backups data. Let's have a detailed look at these options and what they do. First option, launch backup. I think that is the easiest one to understand, and that allows you to access the backup on the same software version as at the time the backup was made. This will then allow you to print the reports, do export, view calculations, etc. You will be able to go into the system and make changes on the data itself. But if you make any changes, just take note that these will not affect your live data, because these are all just happening in this backup that you've got retrieved. The second option, that is return backup, is where you just return the backup to the archive. So what you do is actually you discard it. It actually deletes the data. So you keep the backup that was originally retrieved at the date when the backup was made. That still exists there, but the one that you've launched and accessed and printed and maybe made some changes, that will be just discarded. No changes will affect your live system at all. The third option is replace all backup in the archive. Now, if you've retrieved the backup and you were required to make some changes, and you would like these changes to be added to the backup that was originally made, you can actually use this option. What will happen is the original backup that was saved on the date the backup was made will physically be replaced with the data that you are saving now. And just remember, if you do any changes in this backup and you save it, it will still not affect the live system, as the changes only happened in this data that you've retrieved and the backup that you've saved. The live data is still exactly the same. The last option, replace the company in the live company data and my live data, means actually that you're taking this backup data which you've accessed and you are replacing your live system. So in other words, you are actually overwriting all the information that you have had in your live system and replacing it with this. If you wish to retain the current live data, I think you should rather first make a backup of the company. But this option is just if you would like to go back to that point in time when the backup was made. Just a few things to take note of when you extract or retrieve and extract and restore the data. Now, when you retrieve a backup, you can only retrieve one backup at a time from the archive. Now, if you want to have a look at another company or want to retrieve another backup, you first need to return the backup with one of the three options to the archive. Now, unfortunately, because we are only able to recover one company at a time, we are not able to generate consolidated reports or export multiple companies, export from multiple companies from the backups for this reason. Certain of our Payroll functionalities, for example, the flexi imports, are also disabled on the backup that you've retrieved, and you won't be able to use them. After you return the backup to the archive, we will just remind you that you should press S5, and that will refresh the subscription page. As the application is accessed via the browser and you've done a few functionalities, there's unfortunately not an automatic way that we can refresh your browser for you at this point in time. So it's just good to remember just to click on refresh. once if you are licensed for the module Sage Self-Service, you must just take in consideration if you restore a specific backup that your backup will take your payroll back into time, and if there was any transactions that was synchronized from Sage Self-Service to your payroll, they will actually not be in this company. Sage Self-Service unfortunately does not allow any reposting of data or transactions, so you will have to manually capture the information that has been already approved and posted from Sage Self-Service from when the backup was originally made up to the point in your life, the life timeline, to ensure all the information is still reflecting in your payroll as well. Let's look a bit at your troubleshooting for the product. Now, as from our recent patch released, there's a new error message, well, a warning message rather, that has been entered into the system, which is actually there to protect your data. What happens if you're trying to retrieve and replace data in the live system, you will get the warning that says the system is currently in use and you need to close all connections and retry again. This is just the fact that you are currently would like to copy data from your backup archive into the live system, and at this point in time, the system cannot see if any other users are currently accessing the payroll data at this point in time, as this process is happening outside the system itself. So until all the users have been have exited the system, the message will pop up. So we would recommend that you just access your access control to see which persons or users are currently accessing the system. Ask them to exit the system. You can then also just click on your reset users to close all connections, and then you'll be able to replace the live data into your live system from the backup. If the message pops up, the last startup period failed, the only option would be to restore a backup or retrieve and restore a backup. This means that at the point in time while the startup period process was ongoing, and at this point in time when you do a startup period, all the history is committed. We are saving all the information to our history files for each of the employees and just checking the calculations and recalculating, for example, your ETI periods, your service periods. That's everything that's done during the startup period. If that process, for example, was blocked by the power that went down, unfortunately, the only way is to go to the point in time before you did the start period, and that's when you have to retrieve and restore the specific backup into your live system. The error message that says there was a problem retrieving your backup, this is what when you are trying to retrieve a backup from your timeline. We can restore this. We can resolve this issue by asking the super user to go and reset users. After you've reset your users, to press F5 to refresh the browser, and then to select the retrieve option again to retrieve the backup. Now, unfortunately, if this does not resolve the issue and the error still pops up, this issue needs to be reported to the support desk to investigate this for you. We will escalate it to our cloud team to see what could be the problem, and we will get back to you as soon as the problem has been resolved. You should confirm the specific backup name that you're trying to retrieve, as well as the company number, so that they can just confirm that where the problem might be. Something went wrong. What does this error mean? This is when you select to return a backup to the archive. Now, this will then obviously not allow you to return the backup. This could have been that you've actually tried to do this process where you want to return the backup, but connection was lost at the time where the backup was to be returned. Now, we can resolve this issue first by just doing the reset users function. The super user can do that just to close any active runtime. You can press F5 to refresh the browser and then select to return the backup. Unfortunately, if this issue also persists, please report this to our support team as soon as possible so that we can assist you in the back end to resolve this issue. Now, in some instances, you actually have backups that was saved in older versions than the current Payroll version that we're working on. Now, if you would like to replace the data in your live system, the error appears. It means that the data is not compatible with the version that we're currently running. In this case, it's not something that's so easy to be resolved, and has to be, and we will have to request it from our support team to log a request for you. What we will do is actually look at the data that has been retrieved. We will upgrade it for you on your behalf in the back end, and we will replace that data for you in your live system as per your request. This is done by the technical team, and it might take a while because as we have to access the data and do the specific upgrades and conversions of data, it's not instantaneous. The data conversions does take a little time. So when we will also, when the request is logged to replace this data, please indicate also a downtime which you will be available, or which will be available when nobody actually accesses the system, because we'll need to be able to copy the data into the live system for you after we've updated the data. Now, with the previous three issues, we said that you have to report it to support. Now we've made life easier for you by actually adding the chat function, the live chat function, on the subscription page. If you get an issue where you are unable to access the system or unable to retrieve the data or return the data, you can report this information via live chat to our consultants, who will escalate it on your behalf. They will just obviously ask you a few questions to get the information to be able to escalate the information to the cloud teams. I must say this is quite a nice function, and it will allow you don't have to sit on the telephone lines to wait for somebody to assist you. You will be instantaneously be able to chat to one of the consultants. That concludes this part of the webinar. I hope that you've been able to learn more about the whole process of making backups and restoring backups, and some of the troubleshooting that we've got there for you. We'd just like to remind you as well of there's options we also have available for you as a client. If you need training, we've got Sage University, where we offer a lot of our training courses to you as a client. You can also, if you need assistance with using the system or have an error message you would like to resolve it, you can go to Sage Knowledge Base, which has recently been launched for our products, and it's very easy to access it. It's www.sagekb.com. Just enter a few keywords of your problem or error. Usually if it's an on-screen error, just type in the on-screen error message and you'll be able to it will be able to bring up the necessary information or articles which is related to that. You can maybe just filter it by selecting the product Sage Business Cloud Payroll Professional to narrow down the search. But most of the content that you will need will be available there. Then our Sage City, which is used, our forums that is used for our clients to chat to each other. It's the Sage community, as we call it. You will be able to post your questions there, or even assist some of your people working on Sage, where you'll be able to give them advice on ways of doing certain things on the system. We also, if there's any information that needs to be given through, for example, changes on tax tables or new versions, we will also put that on Sage City for you. So if you have not subscribed to it, go to www.sagecity.com. So search for the support groups for Africa and Middle East, and you'll find our product there in the stack, where you can just join the forum. Make sure to activate your email notifications as well. We'd like to thank you for joining this webinar and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.